Hello everyone, welcome to the Watercolour workshop. Today I'm going to be painting this experimental tree landscape. I'm starting off by taping my paper down to a board. It's the back of an old pad. It's a piece of card rather than a piece of board. I'm using builder's tape or masking tape. I just fold it over on itself, stick my paper down onto it. I drew a line there for the horizon and I am now painting in a wash onto dry paper. So the paper today is sea white 350 GSM. It's not a cotton paper. And this blue is phthalo blue or Windsor blue. I've got it diluted a good amount because it's a very strong blue. So if you're new to painting, you probably want to test these colours on a scrap of paper before you get going, just to see how strong they are. So my aim on this section is to get the paper covered in blue with as few brush strokes as possible. The brush itself is a mop, medium-sized mop, I would say. The paper is A4 sized, which is about 12 inches by 9 inches. And I probably should stop there. Yep, I'm done. There's the tape again. I'm just propping it under the painting to hold it at a slight angle, 20 degrees, 25 degrees, whatever, while it dries. So while it is drying, I'm going to mix up my next colour, which is again the blue with some crimson and a touch of viridian green, that probably is, or phthalo green, something like that, to make a dark colour, a dark bluey purple colour. And I was hoping that the background sky would still be wet. In fact, it is still wet. And I was hoping that this paint disperse into it a little bit better than this, but it's not. So this is probably because it's not a cotton paper, so it's not soaking in like it would on a full cotton paper. So the top of the line here is a bit harder than I wanted, but that's okay. We can fix that in a moment. Incidentally, today's painting is inspired by one of my watercolour heroes, David A. Parfit, from the UK. I will leave a link to his website in the description, and also to a video which he talks about his painting process, and you can see him at work outside the mill where paper is made. So back to the tree line, and I've got my brush cleaned of paint. It's damp, and I'm running along the top edge to soften that tree line. That's the effect that I was hoping would happen when I first painted it on. So now it's dry. The top right hand corner's curled up a little bit, so I'm trying to remove that curl with some tape. Not very successfully, as it happens, but never mind. I'm now painting on some yellow green. It's actually called yellow green, the paint. It's from M. Graham, I think. So this is the tree canopy, and I'm basically going to paint 3 different colours, a light green or a yellow green, and then a mid green towards the bottom, and then a very dark green towards the very bottom. That's an old toothbrush which popped up there. And I'm going to use this to spatter onto the tree area. If you've never done this before, definitely want to practice at first on some plain paper. I'm using plain paper here. This is printer paper, to mask off the areas that I don't want to get covered in this process, because it's quite random and it's quite unpredictable. So the best tip I can give you here is keep your brush close to the paper and just vary the different amounts of pressure that you use to flick to pull the bristles back. It's an old toothbrush, so those bristles are quite stiff. You could also use a bristle brush if you have access to those, oil painting brush or acrylic brush. But it needs to be stiff. You can't use a soft watercolour brush for this. You just don't get the resistance. So I'm flicking on varying amounts of paint and water, and I'm hoping to get some random spots which represent the leaf canopy. Now I've got my rigger brush, and I'm just trying to remove some of the bigger spots that I've got there, pull them back into the main canopy. So I'm trying a lot of different things here just to get some randomness along the edge of the leaves, flicking some paint on there with the watercolour brush. You get different spots depending on what brushes you use, so it's worth trying different things. Back to the toothbrush and some more of the yellow green. I'm really flicking quite hard now. I get quite a lot of water coming out of the brush at this stage. Okay, how does that look? Let's put some mid-green on this. It looks very dark, but it's a mid-green. This is Daniel Smith Green Apatite, and it's a very granulating paint. And we're putting it onto a very wet area, so we should get some granulation. So as I said, my idea is to have a light colour on the top of the tree canopy and then a mid colour as we move down the tree and then a dark colour at the bottom. So now I'm splattering on some of the green apatite, some of the medium green and then a little bit of dark as well. There's quite a big puddle of green at the top. I'm just trying to roll it down into the main area by tilting the board. And I'm painting in the ground. This is the yellow-green again. Got a tiny bit left. And then I'm mixing in some of the other greens. So I'm just getting a random selection of greeny, earthy colours here. I'm going to paint that on. And then I'm going to drop in some more greens and darks. And I'm painting the ground first because I want to paint the trunk and I want them to merge together. and then a little spritz, cover the sky, a little spritz of water from a spray bottle. Still not happy with that big puddle in the top right hand corner. I should have just left this, I think. Should have just let the paint do its thing. But I didn't. I got a tissue and I dabbed it away like this. And then I let it dry. And here is the painting dried. Quite happy with this area of granulation. Nice. Gives a sort of tree leaf effect. Quite happy with the branches going out. Not happy with those splashes. Don't think they really work. Not happy with this bit here. I should have left it, like I said. The distant tree line is okay. It's a bit weak. Got a couple of splashes on it as well, which are not ideal. The stripe between the trees and the ground kind of looks like a wall, so I don't mind that. These are nice areas. Little spirally areas, look a bit like grass. The dark here is the shadow of the trees. Some more grassy areas over here as well. I could probably put another layer on here, but I'm just going to leave it now. That's my experiment finished. So I learned a lot from that. And I'm reasonably happy I could take this technique forward into other paintings. Let me know what you thought about this painting in the comments below, please. Hope you found it useful. Thank you for watching.